What's up, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. Hey, Fiat owners, you know that I have a Fiat 500, a 2012 Fiat 500 pop. Not a poop, it's a pop. It's the lowest end one, and one of the things that I've always liked, and I want to show it to you here because I picked one up and just kind of want to answer some questions that I know you have because I have them. This is a instrument cluster binnacle hood cover, whatever you want to call it, for your Speedo from a Fiat 500 Abarth. So what they did in there is, you'll probably recognize this front center plastic housing around the instrument. The Speedo is kind of just a single dial. It has a separate housing on the Abarth here for the turbo boost gauge, I believe. You know, same controls and things like that. And here's where the steering wheel would be. Now, on the 500 Abarth, they had this other, you know, higher quality, you know, perceived quality and true quality, you know, leather hood. And this one has red stitching on it, kind of a black leather, like charcoal color. Really nice. I actually really like the leather. It's kind of like an elephant hide, kind of like a matte finish, so not really slick looking, but slightly padded here too. You might be able to see. And I always really like that. I thought it just kind of dresses up what you see instead of this hard black plastic in the pop and other, you know, Fiat 500 versions. Now, the question that you have and the question I have is, will this hood fit on my Fiat? So I got this because I was hoping it would. I was actually hoping this thing was actually like a piece of molded plastic, leather wrapped, and it was just probably installed over the existing hardware with like double-sided mounting tape. But I want to give you a little quick tour of it and kind of show you what I found and whether or not this is something that you want to try as a kind of an upgrade, a modification, an aesthetic upgrade for you. Now, one of the things that I've noticed here is that on the back there are 3 screws that have to come out. Now, I've already taken them out here to kind of speed up this video. And then when you take those out, this kind of just pulls away from the leather hood itself. Now, I will show you, and we'll show it to you out in the car, that this piece right here is not the same. I knew this wouldn't be the same, the turbo gauge housing here, but what you can see here is that from this point upward on the top of the housing is completely different. I mean, it's still totally molded different with the screw holes in there, and it's kind of cut down a little bit. So on the one in the car, I'll show you, ours sticks out and is, you know, more smooth, right? So this is already a little different. Now, if you look at where this mounts, you actually have these little indexing tabs right here. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. You have a little kind of indexing tab there, right next to the screw holes, and right here. Might not be super easy to see, but you've got those little kind of points, and they kind of center into these slots in there. So first of all, when you put this on, you would need to kind of Dremel or cut these things or sand them down, because it's going to kind of not only is our instrument cluster housing already sticking out a little further because they haven't cut away there, but then you'd have to cut these out in order to stick this up and make it flush. The other thing is, and we'll show it to you in the car here, is that there's this little tab on the back, and I'm not really sure, you know, how the dashboard looks on the Abarth once you take this off, but I have some theories and I'll show you that. And then on the back of this, we have kind of this honeycomb mesh, you know, reinforcement slats here to kind of keep the shape. And you can see here, it's leather wrapped around and then stapled down. It's pretty nice. I actually really love this red stitching as well. So it seems like a high quality piece, but you know, since I don't have a hole in my dash, as we'll check it out, I'm actually have some theories about what you'll have to do here. But you can see it, pretty nice quality overall. I will tell you that if you have it evenly, you know, kind of flat like this, you can see that this side is a little lower, and that's because the dashboard has a hump, and so they've actually done a nice job to make sure that it's a little higher on this side than it is on this side to kind of conform to the dashboard curvature. So let's go ahead and take this out to the car and just look at it in the Fiat. All right, so here I'm in my pop, and here is the instrument binnacle as you can see it here, and here is that Abarth one, right? And so you can see how, you know, from the midpoint down, they're basically the same, but kind of the portion up here where the Abarth one is cut away to accommodate the leather hood is pretty different. And so, you know, no matter what, if I don't replace this, this lip extends out further, and so it's going to push the leather hood out further too. All right, so let me, without having modified anything, right, this is just all bone stock material. Like I said, we've got those little indexing tabs that are sticking out. So if I just kind of lay this down over my instrument cluster and push it back as far as I can, it might be a little hard to see there, I've got a gap, like a finger gap between kind of the back edge of the leather hood to where it's to the front of my instrument cluster, just because of those little indexing tabs, right? So already if I chop those off, it's going to push back a little better and maybe be a little more flush with the dashboard, right? Now here's where, now it's going to be a little hard to see here. You can see that the tail end of the hood is hovering above, you know, my instrument cluster hump, right? And that's because of that little tab right there. So what I'm curious about is if when you take that off the 500, I kind of think this whole thing is cut away, possibly, that this part is open and that tab might stick under there and then kind of snap down. I'm not sure about that, or if there's just maybe a little hole like right back there, and then the tab fits into that on the Abarth, and then you snap this down. So I'm not really sure. Now I will say, if I could cut that tab off and it would be flush with my dashboard, that might look great, and then I could cut off those indexing tabs and slide it back and then attach it with double-sided tape. I think that kind of really dresses it up. From my perspective, when I'm sitting here driving, you know, to have that leather, and this would be tilted down still a little bit, it's just a really nice, you know, it kind of looks nice and feels like higher quality and more perceived, you know, value. Because if I take it off and you're just looking at, you know, hard plastic there, it just doesn't feel like premium. Now, it's a pretty small thing, and I'm not sure that even cutting off this little back tab is going to be enough to kind of get it to set flush with the dashboard, because as you can see there, those support fins, you know, all of that additional mesh here that they put in to kind of hold the shape is pretty thick itself too, right? So I'm not sure that, you know, if I put my finger in it, it almost goes up to my first knuckle, that if I cut this off, it's actually going to fit flush, right? Because you can see how close to the edge those are. And so, you know, while I was going to do a little bit of modification to this, and then use, like I said, 3M double-sided tape, I just don't think this is going to work for my application, unfortunately. That's kind of where I'm leading right now. But if someone wanted to take that on, just understand it's certainly not a it was not as much of an afterthought by Fiat as I thought it might have been. I thought they might have kind of designed this to fit over all the existing hardware, and it was just kind of installed, you know, it's almost like an aftermarket piece or designed that way. But it was really designed for the Abarth, which shouldn't surprise anyone, and it required a difference here in this plastic piece, but then also somewhere on the dashboard. So pretty interesting to me. Would have loved it. Would have loved to see an aftermarket piece here that would fit kind of the lower end pop and sports, but so far I haven't seen it. There it is. Hopefully I've answered your question, because I've answered mine. Peter from Panda, out.